Online business. Many of you now will think at the moment it's quite challenging. We need leads from the internet, but at the same time, we face challenges that maybe clients aren't where they were before, or suddenly I have more competition online than I had before. Today, we have an international expert, international speaker with us, internet psychologist Graham Jones. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Niels. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for taking the time. You're the absolute expert when it comes to online business, internet psychologist. I, of course, collected different questions from companies who contacted us and companies who we're talking to. Many at the moment struggle that they say we get our leads, for example, from our online shop, from the internet, but suddenly we have a lot more competition and at the same time we have less budget to spend for AdWords or for a good placement in Google, for example. What do you think businesses should do at the moment?
I think that they should think very carefully about their spending, because obviously with COVID and the whole coronavirus situation, they are going to possibly face difficulty in getting income, and their expenses may go up. So they're going to need to think carefully about their spending. So I think the most important thing they can do in terms of thinking about their spending is to stop spending on things that don't work. And far too often, I find that businesses online continue to spend money on things that don't work, hoping they eventually will. So for example, they will spend money relentlessly on pay-per-click advertising in the hope that one day it will work.
Okay.
So I think the first thing to do is really assess what is working and what hasn't been working, and ditch the things that haven't been working. Don't bother keeping trying them, because you're going to be throwing money away and you probably haven't got money to throw away anymore.
Yeah, especially at the moment, the budgets might be quite tight. So what, in your opinion, are ways to attract clients online, which, in your opinion, might work better than probably the classical solutions like put your name somewhere out there on Google and pay for it?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that to find out what your particular customers are really looking for. So there's no one size fits all to everyone. So, for example, some businesses will find that their customers want really deep, insightful information, whereas other businesses will find that what their customers want is speed of transaction. So, for example, if you were a business selling a complicated product, a business-to-business situation, your customers are probably going to want even more in-depth information than they ever had before. So one of the things you should be doing is putting as much data and information about your products online that you might have previously given in, say, face-to-face sales conversations. So add all of your kind of data sheets and everything you possibly can think of, every kind of piece of information you give in conversations, make that into online content to extend your information. Whereas another kind of business, for example, a hairdresser, people don't want lots of information about their hairstyle. What they want is convenience of being able to book and pay. So at the moment, for example, hairdressers aren't operating, but when they operate again, they're going to have to, for quite a while, social distance, and they're going to need to manage people who come in, and people are going to be looking to the internet to manage that. So they're going to be looking to be able to book online, to be able to book appointments online, to pay online, so that they can just go in, get their hair cut and walk out. So different kinds of businesses are going to need to concentrate on different things. Some businesses, in order to get more custom, are going to have to provide lots more information, and others are going to have to be able to provide more convenience of transaction.
That's a very good point. We had quite a number of people asking us exactly that. They say, we hear that we should put out the information on the internet, online, or our website, wherever, and then people fear that their competitors might take that, even steal it, or simply transform it in a way that you cannot legally tell them not to do so, but you simply give away knowledge you do not want to give away publicly. What's the way there?
You're making assumptions that people will steal the knowledge. They might, but they can steal it anyway, even if it's a patent. So you can take all kinds of legal protections, but people can still copy it and do. So that, we can see all kinds of things that are copied that are the same. You can go to different hamburger joints, but they're still a cheeseburger. A cheeseburger is a cheeseburger. But you can still make billions out of doing it. So I think people worry unnecessarily. And besides, the other businesses are too busy running their own business to run around the internet stealing information from other businesses. So people worry unnecessarily. The important thing here is a good example was a plumber in London who put on YouTube, this must be a good 10 years ago now, but on YouTube he put instructions on how to do every plumbing job. So from changing a washer on a tap to repairing the plumbing in your toilet, did videos of every job that the plumber did. And so people were thinking that he's giving away his secrets, that nobody would book him. But in fact, his bookings went through the roof because people saw that he was an expert in plumbing. And therefore, they trusted him because of the content and information he'd given. So one of the psychological factors that happens is that if you put more information than your competitors online, actually people perceive you as more of an expert in your field, and therefore they want to book your products or services with you more.
Excellent. When we now talk about YouTube, you just mentioned YouTube. Some questions which we received were that people said, we heard about all the modern social media, et cetera, but we are, and then they say, conservative business, traditional business, most of our clients are 50 plus. Do they even use YouTube, Facebook, et cetera? What is your take on using social media, YouTube, to put your knowledge there when most or many businesses say that they assume or they think or they even know that they have a rather conservative or, well, in quotes, older clientele?
When you look at the demographics of things like YouTube or Facebook, there are so many people on there that actually you have got all age groups on there. So there are nearly 3 billion people using Facebook now, of which 2.2 billion use it every day. So when you've got that number of people, they have got to cover all the age groups. And in fact, at one point about 4 or 5 years ago, the fastest growing age group on Facebook was the over 65s. So when people start looking at the data rather than making assumptions from what their mates tell them, you can see that actually, YouTube has got nearly 2 billion people using it now. And so when you've got that numbers of people, you are going to have all of the population in there. And, people who tell you that, old people don't use social media, well, they do. All age groups use social media of all kinds.
And then, of course, just getting right to the next question, and I can, of course, not read out the whole question because it's quite long, but someone said, the core message is they started with social media, and then he said his day looked like he starts to open the day with Instagram, puts a photo there, goes on Facebook, personal profile, posts something, goes on his Facebook page, posts something there, realizes someone reacted on Instagram, gets back to Instagram, has a chat there, then someone reacts on Facebook, the Facebook page, besides that, he's doing LinkedIn, then he has a LinkedIn group, then they tweet on Twitter, and he said he suddenly wasn't able anymore to do his job by serving the blog, the YouTube channel, everything they had. And he simply said he can't afford to hire someone because it is not that much work just to maintain it. You must be an expert in the field. How do you handle the amount of social media channels you have today? Because I remember that you gave a speech about that in London at Marble Arch when I was there as well, about the amount of social media access we have, and how shall we deal with this?
Well, the crucial thing is that we get overwhelmed with, as your questioner was, overwhelmed with all the activity and different things to do. So there are a couple of key issues here. The first thing is to only do the social media you have to do. So I've been into businesses where they're doing everything, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, they're doing everything. And then when I ask them where is their engagement and when we look at where their customers are, we discover that their customers are all on Twitter. So why are they bothering to do Instagram? So you only need to do the social media you really need to do. So you need to be selective, first of all. There's no law in any country that I know of that says your business has to be on every social media network there is. So you first of all be selective. The next thing is that what happens psychologically is your brain goes, I don't know if I've checked Instagram this morning, or I don't know if I've checked Facebook this morning. And so what your brain wants to do is check things to make sure that you have or haven't. And what happens then is you get drawn into it. Whereas you don't check all day, have I cleaned my teeth? Because everybody cleans their teeth first thing in the morning. So it's become a habit. So when you create a habit, your brain doesn't interrupt you asking you, have you done, whatever it is, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so on. And so what you do is you create a routine and turn that routine into a habit. It will take a good month or so of establishing a routine and saying, I'm only going to do Instagram between, 9 and 9:30 in the morning or whatever times you want to do it and for how long you want to do it. And you create that routine, you put that in your diary, and you literally do that every day for 30 days, by which time it becomes a habit. And what happens then is your brain doesn't say, have I checked Instagram today? I wonder if I need to do something on Instagram, because you've done it every day. You've done it, just like you've cleaned your teeth. So what your questioner needs to do is limit what they're doing so that they're only doing what they really need to do, and don't get drawn into all the other networks. You can forget them, and only do it to a routine. So make sure that what you do is you establish a routine and it becomes a habit, and then you can do your, say, Facebook activity between 9 and 9:30, and then the rest of the day is yours.
Excellent. Very good. Just to wrap the interview up, when now people are sitting here listening to the podcast and think, wow, these are great tips. The problem, of course, always is, where should I start? What are your top 3 tips what people should do now at this very moment when COVID-19 is still there to get their online business on the right level?
I think probably one of the most important things that everybody needs to do is to make sure they are technically up to date and competent. So one of the things that the lockdowns have revealed is that many businesses are not really as technically competent as they need to be. And so people, without technical support at home are unable to do things. They've not got the right equipment at home and so on. So one of the things every business needs to do is to make sure going forward they have the good technical competence, get technical training in everything they need to do, because whatever happens after all the lockdowns are released, people are going to continue using things like Zoom. They're going to continue doing things at home, because all of these things are going to save businesses money. So many of the people who are currently working at home who think they're going to get back to work, get back to the office, many of them are going to be asked to stay working at home because it's going to save money. So technical competence is the first thing. You've got to be, really good and up there with everybody else at the top level of being technically competent. That's the first thing. The second thing is to make sure that you are only focusing on what you really need to focus on. There is so much activity on the internet that people do get drawn into different social media. They get drawn into saying they've got to do this, you've got to do that. You go to meetings where everybody says this is working for them, and so you experiment. So stop experimenting and start focusing on what you need to do. I think that's the next most important thing. And then the next thing after that, so firstly is to get technically competent, then focus on what you really need to do, and then finally focus on your customers and ask them precisely what they want out of you after all this lockdown and so on is over, because they are going to have a different world. You are going to need to understand them even more than we did before this all happened. So those 3 things will help you into the future.
Perfect. That is excellent advice. I will, of course, put your contact data and the show notes of this podcast so people can get in contact with you directly if they have any additional aspects which they like to talk about with you, or which I can, of course, also highly recommend because I saw you speak many times now. You should hire Graham for your conference. Really great value if you want to know how to run online business properly. So the only thing I have to say now at the end of the podcast is, Graham, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Niels.